Hello and welcome to the return of the Bundesliga Fantasy Football 2023-24 season. And as you can see today, I'm joined by Rune over in Denmark, and we're going to be talking you through what the best team to have ahead of the big kickoff this Friday. Match day 1 of the Bundesliga season is coming really close. Rune, are you looking forward to getting kicked off this weekend?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the league returning and about the return of the fantasy game as well. So I'm just constantly fiddling with my team, trying to work out how to deal with all these new rules and get the best team out there. So yeah, spending a lot of time on my squad and changing it a lot. So yeah, going to share some of my thoughts with you guys tonight, and you can get to ask some questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, definitely. Remember to get all your questions in, guys, as well. That's really important to us tonight. I think, Rune, where did you end up finishing last year? Were you top 10 in the end or even higher?
Yeah, I finished 4th in the world. So yeah, of course, that's pretty happy with that achievement, especially in hindsight. But actually, I was a bit disappointed on the final match day because there were only prizes for the top 3. But of course, looking back now, it was a pretty crazy ride, and I'm very proud of that. But yeah, it was a bit of a shame on the final match day that I ended up picking Brandt instead of Nkunku as my midfield captain 5 minutes before the deadline. But
that could have cost you a nice little trip to the
yeah,
Bundesliga game.
that one haunted me for a while. But you make these kind of decisions all the way through a season, and some work out and some don't, and that's just the way it is. So we're fine with it now.
And did you get a prize for 4th as well? Or?
No, that was the thing, that there were only prizes for the top 3 last season. Oh. So but yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still something to be proud of, top 4 in the world. Incredible effort, really. Yeah. So yeah, I already see a few new faces as well. Rory checking in with us as well. Yeah, enjoy the show. Have a good one with Mark and Rune. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it tonight. Yeah. Yeah, remember to give this a like if you're watching as well. Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Gunnosaurus as well. Yeah, other fans as well checking in with us. Abdullah, good to see you all after 3 months. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to see you back as well. Yeah, and someone already saying that the prize structure is rubbish. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Rune agrees with that after just about missing out. And then obviously, I think the year before FPL Think are just about missing out as well. So yeah, we're the nearly men here at Over the Bar and Bulinews, I think. Yeah. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get started as well. So I'm just going to start because some of you might be new, especially the people checking in for the first time here. So we're just going to kind of go through a few of the rules just to start us off before Rune tells us his expert team. So yeah, you have a budget of 150 million, which is obviously calculated by the experts of the Bundesliga website. And the team has to contain 15 players, which is 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 forward/strikers. So that's basically the rule, that you've got to have that as your basic squad. So a squad of 15 players with 150 million to spend. So Rune, you were just telling me before we started today that there are a few new rules as well in play for this year's season. So do you want to talk us through some of them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as I told you before we started recording, Mark, the game has been changed a lot. It's almost a different game now, and I've spent a lot of time trying to think about how to work with these new rules. Obviously, the biggest change is that you can no longer make changes to your starting 11 when a match day has started. So you have to pick a formation on Friday evening before the deadline, and that formation will be the one that your team will line up in for the rest of the match day. So you can no longer change the formation through the match day, through the weekend. And then when the first game kicks off, you can no longer sub players in and out. So the game will automatically choose the best lineup within that formation that you chose. So if you're lining up in a 4-4-2, then if you're rolling with Kane and Haller, for example, and you have Muani on the bench and he outscores one of the players in your starting 11, then Muani will automatically replace one of the player that he outscored that is in your starting 11. But you have to be careful when picking your formation, because because as I said, the formation won't change. So it's not like it will automatically pick the formation that will get you the most points. It will stick to the formation that you chose. So if you have someone in midfield, for example, if you're lining up in a 4-4-2 and you have a fifth midfielder who picked up 10 points, and he outscored one of the players that's in your lineup in one of the other positions, then he won't get subbed in. Then you will have to keep the 4-4-2 on your team sheet. So that's a big change, and you will also not be able to change your star men through the weekend. So you also have to pick a star man in each line before the deadline on Friday. So yeah, a lot of changes. I think it's something that will make the game more easy to approach for newcomers. But when you've played the game for so many years as I have, then you feel like it's a bit of a shame, because you kind of liked the fact that you had to keep your eye on the ball all weekend and make changes through the weekend. And it was just a lot of fun. And now it's basically a lot like many other games out there, I think. But yeah, that's the new reality, and that's the reality we have to get used to now.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems as though a lot of people have similar sentiments to you from what I can see in the comments as well. I think, Jeff mentioned that he would be willing to pay $20 to $25 to play the game. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, if they expanded the prize pool, because I think that's one of the big criticisms of the Bundesliga game, that there's not enough prizes, and people that play the whole year through, there's not enough prizes in the end. But obviously, it is a great game, and we're definitely looking forward to playing this year. Hello to Alexa as well, and a newbie to the show. Fantastic to see you. Yeah, also Lawrence as well, saying that, you like the old version better. Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying that, it seems, today. And we've also got DJ Sapien as well. Good to see you back from last season. And also, we've also got Akib as well, playing for the first time this year. It's a non-Haaland FPL. Okay, yeah. So let's get stuck into it. So just before we do start, I just want to remind you guys that we also have a joint league between Bulinews and Over the Bar as well. So please feel free to join our league, Bulinews and Over the Bar. We've already got about 550 people in it. So, it's quite a competitive league. Obviously, it's just a league for fun hours. But, see if you can win it and check in every week with us. I think you're going to be doing the show Fridays. Friday morning will be the regular slot for this, but European time. So it could change a little bit, but check out Twitter as well for that, or X, as I should say nowadays. So, without further ado, let's crack on with our team. So, Rune's the expert on the fantasy football, so he's going to do most of the talking from now on. So, let's start off with the goalkeeper. So I'm going to be showing you the visuals on the screen while Rune talks you through it. So, over to you, Rune, for the goalkeepers.
Yeah, and first of all, I just want to say that there are a lot of ways to deal with these changes to the game. In terms of formation, there are a few formations that I'm thinking about rolling with, but I chose the 4-4-2 as I think it's the most balanced one, because it gives you a bench player in each line. But of course, 3-4-3 could also work out well in weeks where you have three strikers that you believe will do really well and who will all haul. It's a bit more of a gamble, because you're really depending on them to do well. But as I said, I went with a 4-4-2 for this draft, and that's how my team looks at the moment, because I think that's a solid way of starting off. So I chose Janis Blatsvik as my starting goalkeeper from RB Leipzig, costing 5 million. With Gulácsi still out indefinitely, we don't know when he will return exactly. He will probably be back in September, it looks like now. But Blatsvik will continue to play instead of Gulácsi while he's out. So he should at least get a good amount of games from the start of the season. And I think he's a really attractive option given his low price, and he starts for one of the top teams. There are also a few other goalkeepers in this price category, one of them being Sven Ulreich from Bayern. And I just read just before getting on the show that Bayern have decided, at least that's what's being reported in Germany, that Bayern have decided to choose Ulreich as their starting goalkeeper until Neuer returns, and that makes him a quite interesting option too. Of course, I went with Blaswick ahead of him because I thought, hey, Ulreich might get 1 or 2 games from the start of the season until they sign someone else. But now that it looks like Ulreich will play more games in a row, and that could maybe even play the whole first half of the season, depending on when Neuer will return. A lot of reports about him, and could still take several months. So Ulreich is definitely a good alternative to Blaswick. And then my second goalkeeper, I just went with the 1 million guy, Sippel from Gladbach. Could be anyone really, and that's the strategy I chose for this team, to just go with one starting goalkeeper. Of course, you could also get both Blaswick and Ulreich, and then you would spend 4 million more on your goalkeepers. Definitely also a viable strategy. But yeah, this way, when you pick just one starting goalkeeper, then you have a bit more to spend on your outfield players.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. I was going to actually ask you that question as well, Rune. Yeah, like in my experience playing the game, goalkeepers don't normally garner that many points, and to be honest, in some cases, goalkeepers can even lose you quite a lot of points. Actually, like I've had it before when, like, I think last year I had Pavlenka most of the time as my goalkeeper, and quite often he was getting -4 or something like that, which was a little bit frustrating if the strikers did really well and the midfielders. So, Rune, would you say it's worth picking like a real, like, top keeper? Like, imagine like you're a big fan of, I don't know, the Neuers of this world, or the Kobel. Would you say it's worth spending that kind of money on them, or would you say it's better to get like a budget option in for this?
I don't think so. I think if I had to go with another tactic, it would be to get 2 cheap starting goalkeepers, and then that would probably be Blaswick and Ulreich. And yeah, I can see in the comments that some would prefer to choose 2 goalkeepers, and I totally understand that way of doing it, but for me, I'd rather spend those 4 million on someone else. And let's say Ulreich will be the starting goalkeeper for a long while now, then I'm actually quite confident in him picking up solid points every week. He might not get to make that many saves, but he plays for Bayern after all. So, and actually the same with Blaswick. Most weeks I think he would do quite well anyway. But yeah, sure, it's worth considering. As I said in the beginning, I'm still pondering over my team and whether how to react to these changes. And usually I would always go with just a starting goalkeeper from the start of the game. But clearly, as some of you say in the comment section, it makes more sense to have 2 starting goalkeepers this year. But all depends on how you want to spend your money, because it's quite important to get the right guys from the beginning of the game, and some of the outfield options are very expensive, at least if you want the best players out there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Also a question from Gunnar Saurus as well. So news has just come out that Bayern aren't looking to sign cover for Neuer, but instead cover for Ulreich. Is Blaswick and Ulreich goalkeeper combo too good to miss out on? What do you think of that one then?
That would be the combo that I would choose if I were to go with 2 goalkeepers, starting goalkeepers, and I can't rule that out either. As I said, this is just a draft, and this is just one way of doing it, but definitely a good combo. And I could also imagine going with Ulreich instead of Blaswick in goal, now that it seems like he will get that many goals in a row for the champions.
Yeah, another interesting question as well from Captain Rex, saying that, is it worth having Riemann as a set and forget, wait for his monthly 20-pointer? Well, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, I don't know. Then I would rather spend a little less and get someone else. I think it can be a bit random with goalkeepers sometimes. But sure, Riemann has had some extraordinary hauls in the past few seasons.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, obviously, I think nowadays one of the most expensive keepers out there as well in terms of goalkeepers. as you can see, Peter Galazzi obviously missing. He isn't going to start the season, for those of you asking that as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, for the goalkeepers. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll swiftly move on to the midfielders, the defenders, because this is where it really starts getting interesting. So yeah, as you can see on the bottom of your screen there, the 5 defenders that Rune has picked. And do you want to talk us through why you chose them?
Yeah, and as I said earlier, this tactic relies on pretty much the way I see it is to pick 4 strong starters in defense, 4 strong starters in midfield, and 2 strong starters in attack, and then a bench player in each line that you assume will start, but who might not do that well. I chose Pascal Stenzel from Stuttgart for this draft because he looks pretty much in line to start from the start of the season, and for at least a month or something like that, with Wagnerman out injured, and he should play at the right back position for Stuttgart, and of course he's a very different player to Wagnerman, so he's not as offensive, so probably won't do as well attacking wise as Wagnerman would, but at the same time I think he's a pretty solid option, and I also like Stuttgart's opening fixture against Bochum. If they're lucky, then they could get a clean sheet there, and if Stenzel picks up a few 1 duels and sets up a few shots, what I know, then he could have a pretty solid game. So he's a pretty safe bench option. Another way of going about it would be to pick a more risky option, because most of the time, I guess you assume that you won't have to use your bench player, so you could also just say, hey, I want to take a gamble and then pick someone who might not be where it could go both ways really. So you could go for a more attacking option. For example, you could look at Karic from Darmstadt. Difficult fixture they have against Frankfurt away from home, and they're not in the best of form, but he's playing as a wing back, so he's more offensive than Stenzel. So that's also a way of choosing that 5th player. Anyway, went with Stenzel this time, and next player is Joachim Mähle, who just joined Wolfsburg from Atalanta, and he started in the Pokal just not a long time after joining them. And I'm Danish myself, so I know Mähle well, having watched him in the national team as well, and he's always one of Denmark's biggest attacking threats. Plays as a wingback for Denmark, and I think his time as Atalanta was okay, but he can do better, and I think he could be a really, really good option. Knowing the rules in this game, he's like a real marauding fullback who sets up a lot of shots and who's very involved, also has an eye for goal. And of course, Wolfsburg have a game against Heidenheim coming up, and then they have FC Köln and Hoffenheim after that. And if I remember correctly, Rogerio, the other new signing that Wolfsburg made, is actually suspended for the first 2 games after picking up a red card in the Serie A. So nailed on to start, I think. So could be great value for money at 8 million, and also owned by 0% last time I checked. So like it says 1% now, but
it seems like 1%, but it's still not much,
No. And then I went with 3 reliable fantasy assets. Rami Bensebaini, who's now a Dortmund player, and we all know what he's capable of from his time at Gladbach. He's a very physical player who wins a lot of duels, and he also gets involved offensively, scores goals. He was the Gladbach's penalty taker. Probably won't be at Dortmund. That will probably be Mbatiana, I assume, but still playing for one of the top teams, and he's known as a fullback who likes to come forward, and he's an experienced Bundesliga player, a well-proven fantasy asset. So very good option, I think. And then I went with Frimpong, who, obviously coming off a really, really good season in the Bundesliga. He was almost playing as a winger in many of Leverkusen's games. Very offensive, very quick, and technically good. Sets up goals and also scores them. So definitely a good fantasy pick, especially when Leverkusen are playing with 3 at the back, which I think they will against Leipzig. And then Alphonso Davies, who I was actually a bit disappointed with last season, but then again, he actually still managed to pick up 229 points. Probably expected more from him, also due to his price tag, but I think playing on the left side for Bayern and with all the qualities we know he has, then he's just a very good fantasy option on paper, and I think that he could set up a lot of goals for Harry Kane this season. So yeah, an expensive one, but also one that I feel pretty confident about will deliver.
Yeah, I think everyone expecting him to have a better season again, as you mentioned. A little bit of criticism last season, but I'm sure he's going to bounce back with the English Fantastico up front as well. So yeah, we've got quite a lot of questions as well. I think your question about he's already been mentioned. I think Marla. So yeah, we don't need to mention him again. Gunnosaurus says between Max, obviously of Frankfurt, Juranovic of Union Berlin, and Grimaldo of Leverkusen, all at 10 million. Who's the the best match day option out of these three, and why? Ooh, that's a hard one, Rune.
Yeah, I think Max has the best fixture against Darmstadt at home, but I have seen some of Frankfurt's preseason games and haven't been that impressed with them. Actually, I also think that Max hasn't really looked like the player he was since returning to the Bundesliga. I think he used to be a really good fantasy option when he was playing for Augsburg years ago, but don't think he's really reached that level yet. I think Juranovic is a very, very solid option, and I also assume that he will start against Mainz this week. The problem is that Christopher Trimmel is the captain, and yeah, he's kind of accepted that he's no longer the starting right back, Trimmel that is. But still, we know he will get his games throughout the season, and especially when the Champions League begins. If we're talking this match day alone, I feel quite confident that Juranovic will start. But a little further down the road, can be quite difficult to predict when Urs Fischer will rotate and when Trimmel will come in to replace him. So there will always be that risk with Juranovic. So that's the disadvantage, I think. But should start this week. And then Grimaldo, I think, is a very good option at 10 million, actually. A very good alternative to Frimpong, and I could imagine doubling up on Leverkusen some weeks. I think that they have a pretty difficult fixture this week against Leipzig. So I would probably go with Juranovic out of those three.
Yeah. And then, I think the answer is pretty clear to this one. Stenzel or that you already tipped Stenzel. So, yeah, definitely him there. And which are the best of Frankfurt defensive options? Anyone that really sticks out there?
Yeah, that would be Buta and Max, who I assume will start. So, yeah, those two. Yeah.
Obviously, I think Alexa Cosmin. I'm not sure whether your first name's Cosmin or Alexa. Yeah, just let us know that. But basically, you already mentioned Buta, but he's clearly a big tip. Then another one, a player coming back to Gladbach. Yeah, thoughts on Luca Netz at 7 million. Going to be starting left back in a Gladbach rebuild. What do you think of him?
Yeah, actually I've also looked a bit at Luca Netz. Plays in a very attacking wingback role from how it seems now. So a quite good differential at that price, and I think that a back Gladbach to get a result against Augsburg. I know Augsburg are almost famous for getting those 1-0 wins at home in games that you don't expect them to win, but I think they looked quite poor in the Pokal the other night, and Gladbach have actually looked quite good, especially given the players they have lost. So I think Netz is a cheeky differential.
Yeah, then another question coming in as well about the defense. So can Dortmund defense be covered by Hummels or Rierson, both at 9 million?
No, I mean, they don't offer the same kind of value as Spencer Baini. Of course, they're also cheaper. I would probably go with Rierson as if I were to pick someone else from Dortmund's backline. But I think Spencer Baini offers a whole different level than the others. And I also had Rierson a few times last season and never really did as well as I'd hoped. He got between 6 and 8 points most of the time. So if you're fine with that, then sure. But I think there are better options out there for that price. Then I would probably rather look at some of the other teams actually.
Yeah, Jeff says free Mazraoui from the bench.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Morocco fans think the same on that one as well. Yeah. And then, just one more about defense because we have to move on to the midfield as well. So, can you name 3 options that you're thinking about that you haven't got in your defense? Yeah, I think you've already mentioned a few, but
yeah, I don't know. I've looked at David Raum actually. I'm not really considering him for this match day because I think he's quite expensive, but he's had a great preseason. So I think David Raum is one to keep an eye on. Christian Günther from Freiburg is always a pretty solid option too. And then probably, I already talked about the Frankfurt guys, Busa and Max, simply because of the matchup. Darmstadt have looked really poor in preseason, so Frankfurt should have the upper hand there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then Captain Rex mentions that Knocker is on pens. Yeah, obviously Union took a long time to find a good penalty taker, didn't they? And they finally found one, it seems, in the defender Knocker. And thanks for that. Yeah, Cosmin is my name. Yeah, thanks for that one for the updates. Yeah. So over to the midfielders then, Rune. So I'm going to put them on the bottom of my screen there. You can see them. So do you want to talk us through those midfielders, Rune?
Yeah, and as my cheap bench option in this line, I went with Justvan from Hoffenheim, who's a new signing and he looks pretty set to start at left wing back. I was kind of surprised not to see him in the lineup in the Pokal the other night, but he came in from the bench and scored a goal and looked like a quite good player. And he's been on set pieces in preseason games too. So despite actually playing in a defensive role, a wing back role, and being a midfielder in the game, I think he's still worth considering. Will get a lot of points, I think, for setting up shots in particular. So I think he's a quite good option at that price at least. So if you want to save some money in midfield, I think that's a good pick. And then Marcel Sabitzer, who's on sale this week. From what I've seen, he's looked really good for Dortmund so far, playing in a number 8 role. And we already know from his time at Leipzig, in particular, what kind of impact he can have on a team, and that he can both win duels and he can get involved offensively and score goals, set up goals as well. So I think he's a quite good option at that price, and Dortmund have a really good run of fixtures from the start of the season. So a good option, I think, for the price. And then 3 expensive guys, Florian Wirtz, who I don't think I have to say that much about him. Everyone knows how good he is, and just a really good player. And now that he's had some time after his serious injury to get back in form, he will probably play more consistently. Alonso subbed him off and rested him a lot last season after he made his return. I think we will see a bit less of that, at least compared to last season. So he should get more minutes on the pitch from now on, I think. And then Grifo, who is basically responsible for everything attacking wise for Freiburg, set pieces and penalties, and just the most important attacking player involved in pretty much everything they do offensively. And then finally Musiala, who is a bit of a no-brainer, I think, after being moved to midfield. He should be a safe starter for Bayern, and as we can see, a lot of people have already picked him up, and for good reason, I think. Definitely getting him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just a few other questions as well coming in there about the midfielder. Yeah, Czerny at Wolfsburg is on sale for 7.2 with million, with 27 attacking runs, returns at 20 last season. Sounds like a no-brainer hosting a promoted team. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, definitely a really good option too. I've also looked at him. It's I think the midfield is actually the most difficult part, because I'm pretty sure I want Musiala, Grifo, and Wirtz, and then it's about the last 2 places, and Czerny is definitely a player I'm considering too, and could still change my team before the deadline a player on my radar for sure.
But I guess the issue with Wolfsburg is always whether they'll start, because obviously Niko Kovac plays with his team so much, doesn't he? So, like, you know, you can never be 100% sure who's going to start, I guess. But yeah, Leo Johansson says Ngumu has done really well pre-season, but not sure he'll play enough minutes to be a good fantasy asset. What do you think of him?
Yeah, also a player I'm paying close attention to, and a player who's on my radar. Definitely, I think for the price, he's also looking quite good, I'd say.
Yeah. And then, yeah, your thoughts on the Frankfurt midfield? I think a lot of people seem to fancy Frankfurt because they got this game against Darmstadt, who nobody seems to fancy really going into this season.
Yeah. I think it's quite difficult to find good Frankfurt assets in midfield, actually. I think Lindstrøm is the only one that I would consider, and I think he's looked a bit out of form recently, and also in the second half of last season after he returned from an injury. I don't think he looked like the same player as before the injury, and I think he's quite expensive, considering all that. He's just 1 million cheaper than, for example, Florian Wirtz, but he would be the guy I would go with if I were to choose a Frankfurt asset.
Yeah, interesting one from Hannes as well about Wirtz or Olmo. Yeah, after that performance versus Bayern, I think a lot of people talking about him this week as well.
Yeah. I mean, Olmo is obviously also a really good option, and he's also a midfielder like Musiala. He was moved from attack to midfield, so I mean, it's not like it's nothing against Olmo. I also really like Olmo, but as I said, you can only choose 5 midfielders, and there are a lot of good options, and you also have to think about how to spend your money elsewhere. But Wirtz versus Olmo is a close one, I think. Could make arguments for both players, both amazing players. So, I mean, Leverkusen are playing at home, so might have a slight advantage there. But as far as I remember, Leipzig have a pretty difficult starting schedule with a game against Union away on match day 3. So I think Leverkusen have a bit easier starting opening schedule as well. But sure, it's a close call. Olmo he looked amazing in the Super Cup game.
Definitely, yeah. And then, your thoughts on Brandt as well? Obviously, another player who did well last season.
Yeah, another really, really good pick. I think his price is a lot higher this season. So the fact that you could get Sabitzer for 5 million less is probably what makes me lean towards the Austrian. I think if they were priced the same, then I would get Brandt for sure. But yeah, at 15 million, then he costs the same as Grifo and Musiala, and I think I would rather have those two guys.
Yeah. Then a few questions coming in from Captain Rex as well about whether Hoffman will be just as good at Leverkusen or even better, possibly. What do you think of him?
Yeah, difficult to say. I think he will be playing for a really strong team. I have high expectations for Leverkusen this season, but he won't be as much of a focal point for Leverkusen. I think that focal point will probably rather be Florian Wirtz if we're talking about one key player from Leverkusen. But with that being said, Hoffman is an amazing player and demonstrated that at Gladbach for several seasons and basically carried them last season, even though things didn't go well for them. Hoffman usually delivered and did really well. So it will be exciting to see how he will deal with his new surroundings. And another amazing midfielder there.
Yeah, and then we've got so many questions about the midfielders. I'll try and get through as many as possible. Yeah, and then Shaqiri as well. Obviously, he's made the move from Köln to Frankfurt this year. Is he a wait and see candidate or want to get in straight away?
Yeah, actually, he's maybe an okay alternative to Lindstrøm. The thing is that he's actually a holding midfielder, at least by position, but we know from his time at Köln that he scored a lot of goals and got involved offensively too. I think it's a high price to pay for a player that is a defensive midfielder. So that's the thing.
Yeah. And then, one from Gunnosaurus, Honorat at Gladbach and Milo at Stuttgart. Yeah, what do you think of them?
Yeah, both good options. I think really good differentials. Honorat has looked really good for Gladbach from what I've seen, and Bilot is going to play a big role for Stuttgart this season. Already did towards the end of last season, so will be an important player for them this season, and a really good differential for the upcoming game, I think.
Yeah, and then I'll just give one more as well on this particular players. Thoughts on Gravenberg? Yeah, I mean, obviously he had a bit of a nightmare of the season last year. Do you think he could come into the team this year, Rune?
No, he's not a player I would consider at this stage. Looks like Kimmich and Leimer will play in the center of the park, and then they also have Goretzka. So I think those three guys are ahead of Gravenberg in the pecking order in central midfield. But of course, we will be able to see Bayern's lineup on Friday. So make your decision based on that.
Yeah. Yeah, then an interesting one as well from Cosmin. Yeah, I think you already touched on this, but are defensive midfielders good in this fantasy game, or is it better to focus on attacking midfielders and wingers, do you think?
I'd say generally it's better to focus on attacking players, but defensive midfielders can be good. I mean, Skiri had some amazing games for Stuttgart last season because you get points for winning duels and also for setting up shots, but also of course for scoring goals, and he can do all those things, and he showed that for Köln. Even back braces sometimes scored 2 goals in a game while also winning a lot of duels. So that was the good thing with him, and also Bellingham, for example, got points from winning duels while also contributing offensively. So and I think Sabitzer is maybe sort of similar player. He's not a holding midfielder, but he will take part in defending too, and get back, and he will be like a box to box player who will get points both for defending and for contributing offensively. So I'd say if you can get someone who's helping out in both areas of the pitch, then it's a good thing, definitely.
Yeah, the questions keep coming in. I will go through a couple because I want to make sure everyone's got the stuff answered. Yeah, are there any other three midfielders? I think Noak asked the same question for the defenders. Yeah, is there anyone else that kind of stands in so you don't have the same team?
I think all the midfielders that I've considered the most have either been mentioned in my own team or through the comment section at this point. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. And then a couple of people mentioned
Marco Reus. Also worth a mention. Looks like he'll play an attacking midfield for Dortmund. So another option there for in midfield, and he's priced in between Sabitzer and Brandt. So if you want like a play in the middle between those two, then he could be a good option. I think that his last season wasn't his best by any means, but looks like he will start as an attacking midfielder from the start of the season at least, and that makes him interesting, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So finally on to the forward/strikers. So obviously you can only pick 3 of them. So go on, Rune, do you want to talk us through them?
Yeah, the cheap one I picked here is Ian Dingshi from Heidenheim, who looks set to start on the wing for them. Joined them on loan from Werder Bremen, and he scored a lot of goals at youth level for Werder Bremen, but never really made the jump into their senior team, at least not starting. He mostly made substitute appearances, but anyway, he's looked quite good for Heidenheim in preseason, and also scored and made an assist in the Pokal the other day against an inferior opponent, of course, but nevertheless showed what he's capable of there. So I think he's a good option if you're looking for a cheap attacker and want to use this tactic. And then the other 2 went with Harry Kane, who is pretty self-explanatory, really. He's even on sale, as if people wouldn't pick him up in the first place. Just a no-brainer, really. And then I went with Sebastian Aller, who I expect a lot from this season. I think he already looked very good towards the end of the last season. Scored a lot of goals, except the Mainz game, of course. But the games before that, he looked really good, and he's also scored plenty of goals in preseason. So and as I said, Dortmund have a really good opening schedule. So Kane and Haller are my main men up front. And if I were to pick a third striker, of course, Mane is interesting too. If he stays, if it looks like he will remain at Frankfurt, there's a lot of speculation about his future and about PSG wanting him. And at this point, he's still not sure whether he will be there for the Darmstadt game. So I would have to be close to 100% sure that he's going to play that game, because he's really expensive too. So of course, if it looks like he's going to play that game, then he's a front trio with Haller, Kane, and Muani is very mouth-watering. But then you have to save some money on in other areas of the pitch. So that's always a thing to consider, how to balance the money you have to spend.
Yeah, and then as I expected, quite a lot of questions coming about the strikers too. So Gunnasaurus says, is it as simple as Kane plus a Dortmund forward and Muani or a Pender if playing a front three? Would you say it's that simple, or too many people have them in the team, maybe?
Yeah, I think, I'd say Kane plus Dortmund forward, then plus you could also double up on Bayern, for example. You can see the lineup, so that's also an option. Or you could go with Jonas Wind, who I can see is being mentioned in the comments now, and who I've also considered. Mecha is out injured again, so Wind should be a safe starter and look really sharp in the Pokal the other night. So also a very good alternative if you're looking for a cheaper option than the premium guys.
Yeah, and then a few people asking Haller or Marlon. Obviously, Marlon finished the season really well. Well, both of them finished the season really well last year. So a few people asking why you chose Haller over Marlon as such. Any reason for that?
Just because I think almost no matter what will happen, then Haller will start. Moukoko is the only real competition, and he's a different kind of player. He's not a target man like Haller is, at least at this stage, unless Dortmund signs someone else to compete with Haller up front, then he should start every game, whereas Marlon might be rotated out. I think they have several good options for the wings. They could do a lot of different things there, and have other players too who could come in. Also, if Marlon doesn't perform, not that I'm saying that would happen. I think Marlon was very good towards the end of last season, and definitely a good alternative to Haller if you want to go a different way. But I think Haller is likely to get on the score sheet more, and is likely to get more minutes. So that's the thing. But of course, Marlon is also very good.
Yeah, then a name that we've not mentioned yet. I'm really excited for Kvanchara, obviously new in a Gladbach. Yeah, is he viable from the start? Is he likely to play at Augsburg this weekend?
Yeah, I think you could take advantage of the discount. Sorry about you losing money to that bug. Can't believe that can't be fixed. But anyway, I think so. Yeah, as I said, I trust Gladbach to get a result there. I watched some of that game in the Pokal the other night, and he looked pretty good. Although I think he might need some time to really settle in, and he also said so himself after the game. He wasn't completely satisfied, despite, as far as I remember, he scored a goal and got an assist. So he may need a bit of time, and I think given that he's actually quite expensive, at least when he's not on sale, but a good differential nevertheless.
Yeah, and then another name as well that we've not talked on yet, Mamouche. Yeah, he seems to have a different club every year, doesn't he, Mamouche? Is he worth touching at Frankfurt, or do you think he's going to be a bit of a kind of relief player this season?
I'm just not certain enough that he will start. Actually, I don't think he will. So not touching him at the moment. But of course, if Muani leaves, then there will be a spot. There will be some shoes to fill out there up front. and then Mamouche could probably get to play a bigger role, but not for now. I'm not considering him.
Yeah, another interesting one from Jeff as well. Does the rumored Folland signing at Union neutralize the appeal of Fofana or Behrens?
I wouldn't go as far as say it neutralizes the appeal, but especially with Fofana, it's some big competition coming in there. The way I see it, Behrens is kind of a different player. He's more of a center forward who is likely to play in front of Folland and Fofana and Becker if he stays, and those smaller, quicker guys. So I think with Behrens, I don't think that Folland will come in to compete directly with him. I still think Behrens will be the main center forward. But with Fofana, yeah, I can see that will mean more competition. But then at the same time, I can still see Geraldo Becker leave, and then it probably won't matter that much because then also Fofana has looked really, really, really good in preseason as well. So especially if Becker ends up leaving, then it won't matter that much, I think.
Yeah, then a lot of love for your fellow Dane, Jonas Vind, as well. Yeah, I think you've already touched on him a little bit, but Sophia asks your thoughts on him as an option.
Yeah, very good option, I think, especially for the price, and probably a player that not many other fantasy managers are picking up. So a really good alternative to the expensive guys, I think.
Yeah, a bit of other love for Jonas Vind as well from Lawrence. Yeah. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of debate as well about Allaire and Marlon in the chat as well. Just checking for any other questions too. There's a lot come in on also about Openda. Yeah, I think you've already touched on him a little bit, but do you think he's going to be? Do you think the lineup that Leipzig have could maybe make him a little bit more appealing as well?
Yeah, I think that it's a really difficult game for him this week, and I know he's on sale, but and that certainly makes him more appealing. But yeah, I'm actually with Cosmin who says the Leverkusen away game puts him off, and I feel in a pretty similar way because yeah, there are other options that I'd rather want this week. Then I would probably rather spend that extra money if I want him for match day 2 to get him there because I don't really expect him to do that well against Leverkusen.
Yeah, it's a real kind of mammoth fixture that on the opening day as well. Oh, FBL Thinker, wow, yeah, great to hear from you as well. Yeah, hope you're doing well and hope you can join us on the show as well at some point over the course of the season. Yeah, we got the two masters, Rune and FBL Thinker, on our show. Yeah. Also, we've not got that much time because we have got the Football League weekly show starting in just over 10 minutes as well. So we will have to wrap up within the next 5 minutes or so. But yeah, Lawrence mentioned Wimmer is listed as a midfielder. Is he worth a punt? Obviously, the Wolfsburg player.
Yeah, I mean he could be. I think I'd prefer Ciani, who we spoke about earlier. He's cheaper, and I also think he's just as likely to start, if not more likely. So I would probably rather go with Ciani. But Wimmer is, as he showed, particularly when he played for Bielefeld, is a really good fantasy asset when he's on his game. So also looks like he will start. So if you're willing to, as far as I remember, he's a bit more expensive than Ciani. So if you're willing to spend that extra money, then you can get him. But I don't think he's worth that extra 4 million or something like that he costs more.
Yeah, definitely. So just before we finish, I am going to confirm my transfers as well on there, as you can see. So I've officially completed my winning lineup. Yeah, expect me. If you want to follow my personal progress, you can see my username there, FCN Englander. Yeah, so you can check that out if you want to, obviously. Yeah, remember to join our league as well, guys. I mentioned it a little bit before, but we would really like to get as many people as possible in the league this time. As I say, we've already got around over 500 people And yeah, definitely, you should definitely join that and join your favorite teams league as well, and enjoy competing in the fantasy football in 2022, 23, 24, I should say now. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. Actually, I think I will come to one more because it is a good question from Cosmin as well, just before we wrap it up, because these are pretty important questions. Can you roll transfers in this game? Are there any chips? And can I make a profit on a player if my team goes up in price? Can you give us a fast answer to that, Rune?
Yeah, I think what Gonosaurus wrote in the comment section. Can't roll, only a limited transfer periods to be announced, and you can definitely
Sorry about that, guys. I think, are you back, Rune, there?
Yeah,
I
I
think we
also
had a
had
bit of a
connection
power
thing.
cut, so to speak, there. But yeah, thanks a lot for that. And Sophia, the league code, we usually just use the name of the league, which is this one, Bulinews and Over the Bar. If you type that in leagues, then you should be able to find it in there. I can just quickly look for the code for you guys. This is my personal, obviously FCN, my favorite German team as well. Yeah, and here is my yeah. Yeah, you can see all of the people we have in there. We have officially 545 people. So yeah, I think if you just go on leagues and you type in Bulinews and Over the Bar, it should come up. That's how I found it when I joined the league. So yeah, that you can just do that, and then you can find us quite easily on there. So yeah, we hope to see all of you in there as well and enjoy the festivities for this season. So yeah, just before we finish, guys, I'm just going to do a bit of admin as well. So yeah, check out our Twitter at Over the Bar, being at Over the Bar Extra. Don't forget our otbfootball.net, the main centerpiece of our work here at Over the Bar as well, obviously. And then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. We've made a really positive start to the season, and we're hoping to get to our goals as soon as possible. So you can help us by giving us a like and subscribing as well. But thank you very much, guys, today. It was a pleasure to hear from some old faces and also some new faces. And of course, thanks to our maestro, Rune, as well, who'll be joining us hopefully on a weekly basis or roundabout a weekly basis this season to give us his tips. So thanks a lot, guys. The season starts on Friday and we can't wait. Yeah, see you there, guys.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
good luck with the game, guys.
Yeah, best of luck from us.